Al-Jazari's automata. 800 years ago, an engineer built machines you could reprogram. Al-Jazari worked in what is now southeastern Turkey, and in 1206 he finished a book describing 50 mechanical devices. One was a boat that floated on a lake at a party, carrying mechanical musicians who played for the guests. The drummer's rhythm could be changed by moving pegs on a rotating drum, the same trick a music box still uses today. Shift the pegs, and the machine plays something else. That detail matters. It means the machine's behavior was stored in the device and could be altered, which is the basic idea behind programming. Another of his machines was a peacock that poured water for washing hands, with floats and valves that released soap and a towel in sequence. None of it thought. It ran a fixed routine, very well, a long time before anyone had the word robot. Leonardo's Mechanical Knight. Around 1495, Leonardo da Vinci designed a robot, and then it disappeared for 400 years. The machine was a knight in a suit of armor. Inside the armor, instead of a body, were pulleys, cables, and gears. By pulling the cables, the knight could sit up, move its arms, turn its head, and open its jaw. The upper body ran on one system of cables and the legs on another, the way a puppet works, except the controller was built into the machine. Leonardo's notes on it were scattered and incomplete, and the design was not pieced back together until the 1950s. In 2002, a roboticist named Mark Rosheim used those notes to build a working physical model. It moved. 500 years after it was drawn, a sketch in a notebook stood up and waved its arms. Vaucanson's digesting duck. In 1739, a Frenchman built a mechanical duck that appeared to eat, digest, and produce droppings, and the digestion was a lie. Jacques de Vaucanson built a life-sized gilded duck with hundreds of moving parts. It could flap, stretch its neck, drink water, and take grain from a person's hand. Then, a moment later, it would excrete something from its back end in front of the audience. The eating was real. The digestion was not. The grain went into one hidden compartment and stayed there. The droppings came out of a completely separate compartment that had been loaded ahead of time with prepared waste. So the duck did genuine mechanical work to fake a biological process it never performed. It was one of the most admired machines in Europe, built to convince people it was doing the one thing it wasn't. The writer. Built in the 1700s, this machine is the closest thing to a programmable computer made entirely of brass, and it still works. The writer is a doll of a small boy, made by the Swiss watchmaker Pierre Jaquet-Droz and his workshop between 1768 and 1774. It holds a real quill pen. It dips the pen in an inkwell, shakes off the excess, and writes words on paper, following the letters with its eyes as it goes. Inside the boy are about 6,000 parts. The text it writes is set by a stack of cams, shaped metal discs, that can be rearranged to spell out different messages of up to 40 characters. Change the discs, change what the boy writes. That is mechanical programming, 2 centuries before software. The writer still runs today, in a museum in Neuchâtel, Switzerland. A clockwork boy from before the French Revolution will, on request, dip a pen and write you a sentence. The Mechanical Turk. For decades, the most famous machine in Europe could beat you at chess, and the secret was a man folded up inside it. In 1770, Wolfgang von Kempelen unveiled an automaton for the Austrian court, a cabinet with a chessboard on top and a turbaned mannequin seated behind it. Before each game, he opened the cabinet doors to show the audience the gears and machinery inside. Then, the mannequin played chess. And it won, against ordinary players and against famous ones. There was no chess machine. A skilled human chess player sat hidden inside the cabinet on a sliding seat that moved out of view as each door was opened. The player followed the game through magnets under the board and worked the mannequin's arm with levers. The Turk toured Europe and America for decades and was destroyed by fire in 1854. It never computed a single move. The machine's entire function was to hide that a person was doing the thinking. Tipu's tiger. This one is a robot built to enjoy killing a man. Tipu's tiger was made around 1795 for Tipu Sultan, the ruler of the Kingdom of Mysore in southern India, who was at war with the British East India Company. It is a near-life-sized carved wooden tiger crouched on top of a fallen European soldier mid-attack. turn a crank on the side, and two things happen. A bellows inside the tiger's body forces air through pipes, producing a growl from the tiger and a wail from the dying man, whose free arm lifts and drops. There is also a small organ keyboard hidden in the tiger's flank, so a person can play notes over the sound effects. The whole thing is a mechanical scene of a tiger mauling a soldier, with sound. After the British defeated Tipu in 1799, they shipped the tiger to London. It now sits in a museum there, a war trophy that still growls when you wind it. Gakutensoku. In 1928, Japan built the first robot in East Asia, and it was designed to write and change its face. Gakutensoku was built by Makoto Nishimura, a biologist, and unveiled in Osaka in 1928. It was huge and seated. The modern reconstruction of it stands about 3 meters tall. Instead of electric motors, it ran on air pressure. Pumped air drove rubber tubes that moved its arms and head, the way pressing on a balloon moves it. It could change its facial expression, move its head and hands, and write characters with a pen. The name means roughly learning from the laws of nature, and its maker built it not as a worker, but as a kind of admiring portrait of a living thing. The original Gakutensoku toured and then went missing in the 1930s and was never recovered. The first robot in its part of the world survives only in photographs and a later reconstruction. Elektro. In 1939, the star of the World's Fair was a 7-foot robot that walked, talked, and smoked cigarettes. Elektro was built by Westinghouse and shown at the 1939 New York World's Fair. It stood about 7 feet tall, made of aluminum skin over a steel frame. On command, it could walk forward by rolling on the wheels in its feet, move its arms and head, and count on its fingers. It also spoke a vocabulary of around 700 words. It was not generating speech. The words were stored on records, and the machine played the right ones in response to spoken commands picked up through a system of light and sound signals. And as a party trick, it could draw on a cigarette and blow out the smoke. It had a robot dog, Sparko, that could sit and beg. Elektro was an entertainer, not a worker. Its job was to stand on a stage and make a crowd believe the future had arrived, one cigarette at a time. Unimate. The first robot that actually held down a job did not look like a person, did not talk, and did not pretend to think. Unimate was the first industrial robot. It was invented by George Davil, developed with Joseph Engelberger, and the first unit went to work at a General Motors plant in New Jersey in 1961. It was not a humanoid. It was essentially a single heavy mechanical arm, bolted to the floor with a gripper on the end. Its job was simple and dangerous. It lifted hot, die-cast metal parts off a machine and stacked them, work that could burn or injure a human. It did not see the room or plan anything. It followed a sequence of stored movements, repeating the same motion exactly, all day, every day. That was the whole point. After 750 years of machines built to look like they could think, the one that finally mattered did the opposite. It made no claim to a mind. It just moved metal, reliably, and never stopped. And that is what put robots to work for real.